I walked into my own building lobby holding 2 grocery bags and a black umbrella, water dripping from the storm that had just hit. Before I even reached the elevator, a woman I'd never seen before stepped in front of me, blocking my path. "Can I help you?" she snapped. I smiled politely. "No, I live here." She didn't believe me, asked for my key card, demanded to see my ID, said she'd never seen me before and that I was probably casing the place. Before I could even get my wallet out, she was already calling security, and by the time I tried to explain, 2 police officers were slapping cuffs on me. What she didn't know? I not only lived there, I owned the building, and she, Karen, as you've probably guessed, had just declared war on the wrong person. Where are you watching from? Drop your country, city, or even your current mood. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Have you ever been wrongly accused or embarrassed by someone who didn't know the full story? What did you do about it? I want to hear your side. I'm 34. I own 3 properties across the city. The one I live in is an 11-story mixed-use building near downtown. I don't dress fancy, I don't walk around like a boss, and most people in the lobby probably think I'm a tenant, just the way I like it. But Karen didn't just make an assumption. She called the cops. And what happened next lit a fuse I wasn't planning to light. But once I did, she lost everything she thought she controlled. The day she had me arrested wasn't the first time Karen tried to flex. 2 weeks before that, I noticed her giving me sideways glances in the elevator. One time I caught her peeking out of the trash room door, watching me carry in furniture I'd just purchased for one of the model units. At first, I thought she was just nosy. Later, I realized she was trying to catch me doing something she thought was suspicious. Background: how I even ended up living there. About a year ago, I bought the entire building from a tired landlord who couldn't keep up with maintenance. I spent months restoring units, repaving the parking, repainting halls, fixing pipes, real hands-on stuff. Instead of renting the penthouse, I moved into a ground-floor corner unit for one reason. I wanted to observe everything quietly. Who respected the place, and who didn't? I kept a low profile, dressed casual, never announced myself. I was the landlord who blended in, until Karen showed up. Karen had just moved in, and instantly started acting like a board member. She bought a condo unit on the 3rd floor 2 months earlier, immediately joined the HOA board. Within a week, she started posting notices in the elevator about noise hours, package theft awareness, and stranger danger. She walked the halls with a clipboard, took pictures of hallway rugs that weren't flush, sent mass emails asking people not to loiter near the laundry room while waiting for their cycle. The HOA board used to be relaxed. Now, it was a dictatorship in yoga pants. She had me marked, and I knew it. I think the moment she saw me carry a wet bag of concrete mix into the elevator, she made up her mind. To her, I wasn't an owner. I was a contractor, a worker, a guy who didn't fit the building vibe. She never asked questions, just jumped to conclusions. At one point, I caught her photographing my door. I stepped outside calmly and asked if she needed help. She pretended she was documenting a scuff mark on the wall. It was my wall. Then came the arrest, and she made it happen. The day of the arrest, I was coming back from picking up supplies and groceries, had paint samples, a sandwich, and a few bulbs for my hallway light. Karen saw me enter from the side door, followed me into the lobby, then stepped in front of me and demanded to know who I was visiting. I told her again, I live here. She told me to stop being rude and identify myself. I asked her to please move out of the way. She took out her phone and dialed 911. By the time the officers arrived, 6 minutes later, she had convinced security that I was trespassing, possibly casing mailboxes and refusing to leave. The cops didn't listen. At first, I showed my key card. It scanned green, but she said I could have stolen it, said she felt unsafe. Told the officers I was getting aggressive even though I hadn't moved or raised my voice. Didn't check my name. Didn't ask for building records. Just slapped cuffs on me for disturbing peace and possible trespassing. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I let her think she won. As I sat in the back of the cruiser, Karen stood on the curb, smiling, telling a neighbor, "See, told you something was off with that guy." I could have yelled, could have told the cops right there, but I didn't. I just asked them one thing. "Can you call the building owner to verify?" They said, "You'll get your chance to talk downtown." They didn't realize they were taking him with them. One call changed everything. The moment I got to the station, I made one call. Not to a lawyer, not to my assistant, to the precinct's property liaison. The same one I had coffee with during the city permits process. I explained what happened. 15 minutes later, the watch commander walked in and personally uncuffed me. "You're free to go, sir. Sorry for the confusion. This won't go on your record." He looked embarrassed. I wasn't. I was focused. Because that moment made one thing very clear. Karen thought she embarrassed me. She didn't know. She just activated me. The morning after I was released, I came back to my unit. The hallway was quiet. I unlocked my door. But just as I stepped inside, I noticed something mounted above the hallway fire extinguisher, pointed right at my door. A new camera. Small, black, blinking red. It wasn't there last week. I checked the HOA notices. Nothing about new surveillance installations. No mention of security upgrades. And when I followed the cord, it ran right through a drilled hole, into the unit across the hall. Karen's unit. She had installed a personal camera aimed directly at my front door. Then came the warnings, piled in my mail slot. Within the same week, I received a noise violation for alleged late-night door slamming, a written notice about unauthorized construction tools in shared hallway, a formal HOA warning for failure to report occupancy status. Each letter was signed by the HOA secretary, but clearly written by Karen. She wasn't just watching, she was using every tool she had to grind me down. She followed me into the elevator, then lied about it. 3 days later, I stepped into the elevator at 9 p.m., heading up from the laundry room. Karen was already inside. I said nothing. She didn't either. Until we reached the 3rd floor. As she stepped out, she muttered, just loud enough to hear, "You make people feel unsafe in their own homes." I raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me?" She turned and stared, didn't speak, just smirked and walked away. The next morning, I got an email from HOA. "Incident report, verbal confrontation in elevator. Please maintain community standards." She was filing fake incident reports now, framing me as aggressive. HOA board emails started targeting me directly. A week later, a new HOA rule appeared in the monthly bulletin. Owners living in lower units must submit a tenant occupancy disclosure form and list all frequent visitors. It was clearly written to target me. I'd had a couple of contractors visit for repairs. Karen must have seen one of them through her camera. But instead of confronting me, she rewrote policy to force me into reporting who came to my own unit. When I replied with a short email, "This is overreach. I'm not a tenant," she sent it to the entire HOA board with this note: "This is what I've been warning you about. If we don't act now, we're going to have real problems." She wanted them scared. She wanted them on her side, and it was working. Some board members started siding with her. Contractors I hired were harassed. I hired an electrician to rewire the hallway light outside my door. He called me 15 minutes in. "Hey man, who's the lady saying I need a permit to change a bulb?" Karen had intercepted him mid-task, told him he was tampering with building infrastructure. I came out to handle it myself. She refused to leave, told him he was on camera and she'd report him to the city if he continued. He packed up and left, nervous and annoyed. I paid him full rate anyway, then sat alone in the hallway just thinking. This wasn't about HOA policy anymore. This was a personal power trip. She didn't care about safety. She cared about control. Then she tried to get my access revoked. Late Thursday night, I swiped into the garage, and my key fob flashed red. I had to text the property security manager to manually override the gate. He told me something I didn't expect. Weird. Your card's been flagged for manual review since this morning. HOA requested it. That wasn't standard. Only owners could request card revocation, which I was. But I had never flagged my own card. Karen had abused her HOA access to tamper with the system. I asked the security company for logs. They emailed me the request form. Guess who signed it? Karen last name, board secretary, LMHOA. Then she scheduled a vote to restrict access to lower floors. Her latest move? Propose a policy that keycard access be limited to only one's own floor, claiming increased crime risk. It would mean I couldn't enter my own units on other floors. Contractors couldn't service multiple spaces. I'd have to file forms to access my own building freely. And the worst part? The motion passed the first vote, 3-2. Only 2 members resisted. Karen now had majority support. She was rewriting the entire building's access around me. That's when I stopped reacting. I stopped pushing back. I stopped replying to emails. And I started preparing something she wouldn't see coming. I let her think she won. And I found one clause, buried at the bottom of the board rules. A board member may be removed by a vote of unit owners upon demonstration of misconduct, abuse of position, or legal liability to the association. I printed it, highlighted it, taped it to the inside of my closet door. Then I sent out a quiet email to every owner in the building. Attached all documentation, camera install without approval, falsified access request, harassment complaints. No emotions, no drama, just receipts. Because if she wanted war, I was going to strip her title right off the boardroom wall. Karen weaponized forms and bylaws. I decided to drown her in the same thing. I drafted a petition for immediate board removal, citing misconduct, harassment, and fraudulent use of HOA authority. Attached evidence folders, still shots from her unauthorized hallway camera, security system log proving she flagged my key fob, email thread where she fabricated an elevator incident, a contractor's signed statement describing her threat. I didn't send it yet. First, I needed signatures. Most owners stayed silent because they feared fines. I offered them something stronger, freedom from Karen's chaos and lower legal liability. Hallway conversations, I caught people by the mailboxes, in laundry at the dog-run gate, showed them the evidence on a tablet, explained that if Karen's policies triggered lawsuits, fees hit every owner's wallet. Asked a simple yes or no. Do you feel safer with Karen in charge? Out of 27 owners, 19 said no within 3 days and signed my petition on the spot. One old school lady whispered, "I thought you were just the handy guy. Didn't know you were the owner." I smiled. That's exactly why this works. Karen loved police and policies. She forgot about property law. I called Mara Singh, real estate attorney and friend. She read my folder, let out a low whistle and said, "She's breached fiduciary duty, misused surveillance, and tampered with security infrastructure. That's triple exposure." We filed a cease and desist against the HOA for unauthorized surveillance and unlawful disabling of owner access. Mara scheduled it for personal service, an envelope literally hand-delivered to Karen at her unit. The knock alone would rattle her. I bought a Wi-Fi sniffer and discovered Karen's hallway camera broadcasting to a cheap cloud service, no encryption. I captured 3 recordings, Karen slipping violation notices under my door at 2 a.m., Karen photographing my contractor's toolbox while whispering, "Gotcha!" Karen dragging a new potted plant in front of my peephole to block my view. Screenshots, timestamps, chain of custody. Mara smiled. This footage nukes any claim she makes about feeling threatened. I stepped into the elevator with 2 owners who'd already signed. Doors halfway closed, Karen rushed in with her clipboard. She started, "We need to discuss your occupancy form." I replied, calm. "Which one? The fictitious one or the one a judge will read?" She froze. Other owners stared. Elevator dinged, doors opened. One of them, Mrs. Alvarez, looked at Karen and said, "I signed his petition. Maybe read it before you harass him again." Karen's lips tightened. Clipboard shook just a bit. 2 nights later, Karen emailed a special meeting agenda to vote my key access down permanently. I replied to all owners with a different PDF. Emergency owner meeting to remove board member K, last name, for misconduct. Same date, same time, different room. The building's community lounge, my room. People had to choose which door to walk through. I contacted the HOA's accounting firm, requested last year's expense ledger under my right as majority owner of common interest property. Found a $4,200 line item, security upgrade, third floor camera. Karen reimbursed herself with HOA money for that illegal camera. I photocopied the ledger, circled the entry, stuck it atop the petition stack. Now it wasn't just harassment, it was theft of association funds. Owners who were on the fence slid right over, signatures, 23 of 27. The following afternoon, Karen found 2 envelopes taped to her condo door. Cease and desist. Official letterhead, attorney signed. Owner petition, pages of names demanding her removal, plus a notice of the upcoming vote. No threats, no profanity, just pure legality. Security cameras show she ripped them down, stormed off, and drove away for an hour. She came back with 2 large file boxes and a face like she'd bitten a lemon. I watched from my ground floor window, silent. Early on, I wanted to lash out. Now every move felt like a chess piece sliding exactly where it belonged. Karen played checkers, loud, jumpy, emotional. I played endgame, quiet, patient, inevitable. I slept better than I had in weeks. I set up the community lounge, projector ready with camera footage, copies of the ledger on every seat, fresh coffee and donuts. You'd be shocked how far free pastries go. I didn't dress up, wore the same hoodie Karen once called maintenance guy chic. At 6:58 p.m., owners filtered in, chatting, curious, a little nervous. Karen hadn't arrived. 7:03 p.m., the lounge door burst open. Karen marched in with her own stack of papers and an off-duty police officer she'd hired for security. She scanned the room, saw 20-plus neighbors staring back. Her voice quivered, but she tried, "This meeting is unauthorized and—" I clicked the projector remote. First slide, her camera feed of herself sliding violations under my door at 2 a.m. Gasps. Silence. Even the cop raised an eyebrow. I cleared my throat. "You placed that camera with HOA money on common property without a vote and used it for personal harassment. Tonight we're voting to remove you from the board, per bylaw 14C. Karen opened her mouth, closed it, clutched her papers. The vote was about to begin. Cliffhanger. One last card up my sleeve. Just before we took ballots, my phone buzzed. Email from Mara. Subject: confirming notice of civil claim filed. She'd filed the lawsuit earlier than planned. I looked up at Karen, then at the owners. "Before we vote, there's one more item. You all deserve to know that the association is now named in a lawsuit for Karen's misuse of funds. The faster we remove her, the faster the case narrows to a single defendant." 20 pens hit ballots at once. Thursday, 6 p.m. sharp. 1. Residents filed into the community room on the ground floor. Folding chairs, bottled water, a small podium. Karen stood at the front, clipboard in hand, fake warm smile on her face. She still thought she owned the room. She had no idea I'd spent 2 weeks preparing this moment. Right before the meeting began, I walked up to the board table. No words, no scene, just handed each of them a manila envelope with their name on it. Inside, a copy of the civil harassment complaint I'd filed against Karen. Evidence of her camera facing my door. The access tampering logs, withstanding testimony from my contractor. But most importantly, a letter from my lawyer, notifying the board that if they refused to remove her, the HOA itself would become liable. The room hadn't even heard the petition vote yet, but the pressure already set in. The moment the board president read the legal letter, his posture changed. He looked at Karen. She shifted. smiled nervously, tried to talk. He held up a hand. Out of respect for everyone's time, we'll begin with the motion to vote. She didn't argue. She didn't even make a speech, because suddenly everyone saw her for what she was. Not just strict, not just nosy, but dangerous. The vote wasn't even close. They passed out paper ballots to every attending owner. Quiet, simple, check a box. Keep Karen on HOA board. Remove for misconduct. There were 28 votes cast. 24 voted to remove her. The board president read it out loud. No applause, no drama, just a silence that hung like smoke. Karen didn't move, didn't speak. She turned and walked out, clipboard still in hand. Her authority was gone within 48 hours. By Saturday, the security camera outside my unit was removed. The motion to limit lower floor access? We're returning to the values this building was founded on. Respect, balance, and lawful boundaries. Karen? She still lived there, but she never joined another meeting, never emailed again, never so much as looked me in the eye in the hallway. She had power once, she misused it, and she paid the price. Not with noise, but with silence. What I built after she left. I used to avoid making myself visible. Didn't want to seem like the owner. Didn't want power. Just peace. But after what happened, I realized something. When people abuse rules, silence enables them. So I took one of the unused storage rooms in the basement and turned it into a small shared lounge. Soft chairs, coffee machine, books, left the door open, posted a sign, residents first, always. People came. They talked. The building changed. We didn't need fear to maintain order, just someone willing to stand when others were too tired. She thought I was the problem. I became the solution. Karen thought I was trespassing. She thought she could define who belonged. She thought power came from clipboards, meetings, and policy. But in the end, it came from the truth, from proof, from being the only one in the room who didn't flinch. What would you have done if someone called the cops on you, in your own building? Would you fight it publicly, or take the legal path like I did? Drop your answer in the comments, and if this story gave you chills, subscribe for more real HOA stories and revenge done right.